Hey to everyone out there. Welcome to BBB. As Rob said, this is really a program that we put together to introduce the world. I'm going to be um, uh, very deliberate, right? Introduce the world to writers and these artists of color, and then those artists to the world. I think it's very important for us to kind of create spaces, not only for our art, but the identity that we put around that art. So that's the press release version of it. The other version of it is really, look, this is really selfish. I get a chance to talk to people that I really admire their work, both on and off the stage, and I get a chance to chat with them. You see them on stage, you see these poets, you see performers, painters, sort of in their space displaying their work, but you don't really get a chance to sit behind the scenes or really see and talk about the things that were formative in their career. So that's really what I love about this show. So today I am particularly pleased to bring this young man to the stage, and this is really the epitome of those situations where you've known someone for so long and you feel like you know them, but there's so much more that you don't know because of exactly what I just said. You don't really have the opportunity to sit down and say, okay, look, you've done this. I see you here. You have a beautiful family. There's this going on. There's that going on. What's happening? What's happening with you. So this is really one of those chances to sit down and talk to Gill. But before we go, I am going to give you this bio, and this is one of the kind of individuals that they got multiple bios depending on how much time you have on the things that they've done, right? But Gil is
Use the short one.
I got that one, even but it's packed, man. I love it. He's a Navy veteran. We got to get into this because I found that out recently. I was
Mm,
like, first of all, you're too young to be a veteran. But
mm.
Navy veteran poet, playwright, DJ, and performing artist. He's a two-time Grand Slam poetry champion, a two-time Raw Performing Artist of the Year, and a five times, I'll say that again, 5X TEDx San Diego presenter. Currently is a teaching artist and a commissioned playwright with the Old Globe Theater and La Jolla Playhouse, and the official poet in residence for the San Diego Writers Festival. This man is busy. His screenplay, The History of Joy, in 2022, won two Gold Anthem Awards, was an official selection of the SoCal Film Awards and the San Diego Movie Awards, as well as the Silver Award for the Best Drama at the Paris International, folks. You got to do more than just put it on YouTube. You got to be you got to be worldly. Just call yourself global. For the best drama at the Paris Film Awards and was a finalist at the Cannes World Film Festival. The poem he created and performed for the project Clean Water won the Gold Marcom Award for advertising and has been shown at AMC and Regal Cinemas across San Diego. He has over 10 years of experience teaching written and performing arts with the penal system, working directly with incarcerated persons and recovery settings, as well as with veterans and students from junior high to college. That is a mouthful, but that is just a fraction of what this man has done and continues to do. Welcome, welcome to Beautiful Black Books. I am so glad to see you, brother. It's been a long time. How
It's
are
been a long time. It's been a long time since we've been in each other's presence.
you? Right.
Like I did this same thing with you when I did the Poets Tree during the pandemic and everything, and I got to shout your praises. And but yeah, it's been a long time since we've been in each other's presence. So I'm gonna have to fix that and make a trip up to San Jose.
And vice versa. We'll talk about
Yeah.
where you are right now, but yes, you're right. And I mean, I'd admit that I secretly stalk you, so that
Same,
that
same,
happens
same.
as well. But before we even stop talking, man, I gotta talk to you about what is the most important thing in the world at this moment, which is Tyson. And Oh my God. Did you get a chance to see?
Yes,
Yeah.
I saw that. I saw that. The best thing about that fight was the sushi I was eating while I while I was partaking in it.
Yeah.
Salmon with lemon slice on top is excellent. But you know what? I started reading the. It's so funny that you brought that up. Because I was going to ask you that off air. Had you seen it?
Right.
I just, I'm glad he didn't get hurt.
Right.
If he got a big bag for it, all the better. He
Mhm.
did say in the interview that this is not going to change his lifestyle, but I think it got people for a second excited about boxing,
Yes.
in general. So for that, Jake Paul, like he did his thing. I think that he showed, um, at the end, at the fight itself, he showed Tyson respect by bowing to him at the end and everything. He could have like really kind of been a clown. Like I don't know if you saw the fight with the Indian dude and the Mexican dude where he got behind him, started humping him, all that stuff. That's disrespectful. You know what I'm saying? So he showed the legend respect. I think he had to because if not, it would have been mutiny.
Yes.
Uh, but it was part of it was kind of sad to see like when he was getting hit and he had that. My dad fell that way. Like my dad
Oh,
was trying to get a rebound and he had that same move before he just crashed and like yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I agree. Everything you say. It was, I mean, you have the Twitter ABC News and all,
hmm
you know what I mean, just the social media and so people are flooding the airways with why and who and he could have done that and I've heard everything from Jake doesn't really have loyalty, so if he could knock him out, he would have. Uh,
hmm
so let's not take everything away from Mike,
hmm
in the sense of as Roy Jones was saying, he still has that power.
Someone
But
said that Mike was holding back, and
yeah,
I was like, I didn't see that.
yeah, I didn't see it either. I would only give that credence in this. If Mike would have like backed himself into the ropes and
hmm
fought from there, I think it
hmm
would have been dangerous for Jake because I think
Yeah,
he can still hit. But as any boxing enthusiast will tell you, if you don't have legs,
yeah,
it doesn't really matter. And
yeah.
he didn't have any legs.
The undercard fights, the two prior to the Tyson fights, were great.
Oh my God.
They were great, and I think Serrano is her name. I think she got robbed. I think old girl was kept trying to with her head trying to open that wound up.
Absolutely.
Uh, but and the one before that, the two guys, Mexican dudes,
Yeah.
they put on a show.
They did put on, yeah, exactly. Both knocking each other down. So yeah, I mean, look, it's I bring it up more because it's topical, but then
hmm
also because there's also a part of what we do that's tied to entertainment. There's a bit of it entertainment. There's recognizing the past,
Yeah.
as well.
You know what's interesting though that I found, and I haven't had this thought in a while, but you like having this conversation with you brought this up. Um, when we think of the some of the poets of the past, like let's say even especially like non-black poets who were like more of like kind of like the stuffy shirts, like very versed in
Byron's
you don't see them you don't see them as much as sports enthusiasts. But what I found with people of color, especially black poets, like I haven't met one that isn't like a huge sports enthusiast, at the same time, as much as they're really well read and deep thinkers and stuff like that. They seem to be able to um, balance both, at the same time. And I think that that's beautiful because you're able to speak in a way and speak to people in their language, like the common folks, the blue collar.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. I think there's just so much about, especially when you talk about the Black experience, whether it's to do with art or anything else, that has to, for lack of a better word, it has to go up and down the pole, right? It has to,
hmm
on the top level, strategic, and you said well read and et cetera,
hmm
et cetera. But if you look at the Genesis, right, it can roll down the rest of the, whether it's I had to get out the hood, or it's,
Mhm.
yes, I'm doing successful now, but two generations before I was here. You know what I mean? So I feel like there's maybe a better way to say it is that there's a we're still close enough to have the sight line of how things started and and where we're going, so we're able to have that juxtaposition.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's super interesting, and when we get some time one day, we'll talk about how my wife, who is from the UK, when she started getting into like basketball, which I love,
Mhm. Me too.
the draft came up. She's
Mhm.
like, this kind of seems like the slave trade, but we'll we'll get into that. We'll get into that another day.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, look, let me jump right in because there's one part that I'm super jealous about, and it's leaking out my pockets. Is
Mm.
that I either, well, I know you're not there now, but recently you had gone, you were in Japan. No, was it Japan or?
Yeah. I was in
Yeah,
Japan. Hmm.
yeah. Talk to me about that. What were you doing there, and how was that?
Yeah. I just went on a solo vacation, man. Went on a solo vacation and I went to for like 6 days and I found an open mic that was English speaking. But it was really cool and really eclectic because a lot of the native English speakers also spoke Japanese, so they would do their poems in both. They would switch back and forth, which was really interesting. I saw a guy do a complete spoken word poem in Japanese who was Japanese, and then he had an English interpreter, and they went back and forth with that. But the host was really eclectic and fun, and the vibe was great. And just on an economical level, it costs like US $6 to get into that open mic, and it included an alcoholic drink. So I was like, yes, Lord, let's do this. Um, no, but it was a lot of fun, and I'll be going to Paris in January to perform out there, which I'm really excited. I've never been to Paris before. And yeah, I'm just trying to spread my wings, man. I've been in Southern Cali. I've traveled a lot, but I haven't performed a lot out of the country. Well, the only other place I've performed out of the country is Mexico a few times.
Okay.
Uh, but I want to spread my international reach, and I heard this show is international. So anybody out there looking to book a brother, let
That's
me
right.
know.
Make it happen. His information is going to be in the chat, so
Yeah.
I want to make that happen. No, that's fantastic, man. I saw sort of the journeys, and I think you had mentioned there, the last time you were there was when you were in the service. Was that the case, or am I
No,
missing?
I've never been to Japan before. I've been all over Australia, Tahiti, everywhere. But I've never been to Japan before.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So when you went there, and again, I know we'll jump off this soon, but like from what when you think about everything else that's attached to Japan, there's so much culture and so much sort of
Hmm.
structure and history and legacy there. Does
Hmm.
that translate into the experiences that you had from a poetry perspective? Again, you weren't going all over Japan reading, but like in that space that you went to, did you see any of how did that better question is how did that differ than what you see in the States?
Like the culture itself.
Well, not so much the culture, but how does that affect, you go to a spoken word place in the States, you kind of, depending on where you're going, you kind of know what you're going to see, or
Hmm.
what to expect. The framework is pretty much the same. Was
Hmm.
was it the same when you went into this space, or did they have?
No, no. Uh, I found that one, it didn't feel like people were performing to get famous.
Mm,
It felt like people just loved the art and wanted to get together and read. Um, it felt like, you know, I don't know. The a lot of people like with the host, like they had the host come up and he was a very good musician, so he used lots of different things. He had these like two um squeaky pigs that he could manipulate rhythmically, and it kind of sounded dope. And he did that behind. He had a like a snare drum that he would play and while someone else was doing it, and it just felt like art for art's sake. And sometimes you just need that. You know, a lot of open mics, especially spoken word, it's like, let me be the dopest here. Let me shine and show everybody what I got. And there's a space for that. I'm not negating that, but sometimes it's just like folks getting together, art for art's sakes. It feels like kind of like a bonfire kind of vibe thing, which I can appreciate too sometimes. You know, I think one of the things that is my strength as far as a poet goes is that I came up in like Ventura County where there wasn't a lot of spoken word and it was a lot of page poets and everything. And it was a slower pace, but they didn't take so long to get to their point. And it was like very like just powerful words and like people just sat and listened. And then I would travel to LA and get to the lounge and it was very flashy and all those other places in the LA area, and I would go back and forth each week to each kind of thing. So like I always wanted to find that balance in between. Does that
Yeah.
make sense? Yeah.
You know, that makes perfect sense. And I think that was really, I'm glad you answered that way because that's what I was trying to get at is really, you know, what is it, what is the feel, you know,
Mhm.
there and the idea of art for art's sake, I think is, as you said, is super important.
Yeah.
I'm glad that's something that's at least there and it hasn't become quote unquote westernized in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell the audience where you are now, where you're currently speaking to us from.
Right
So
now I'm in Temecula. And but I still work pretty much all the time in San Diego. It's about a 60-minute commute. And but I also do stuff in LA and everything. So this is kind of like my central hub, and then I just travel wherever I need to go to
right,
perform.
that sounds. And so, what have you seen? Because I know you've been in the San Diego space for a good while.
Hmm.
How is the scene? How is the scene today versus how it was, let's say, 10 years ago?
Mm. Um, the community is growing back again. There for a while, it felt like there wasn't much of a community as far as poetry goes. Again, I'm kind of a chameleon, so I exist in a couple different poetry spaces. You know what I'm saying? There's like kind of the urban space, the spoken word space, and it was there were still some places that were still holding on and still doing their thing. Like we had Elevated for a long time. That was the big thing. We had Train of Thought, and that was a big thing. And then it like when Elevated really, that was like the big hub. When that kind of dissipated and everybody went off to do their own thing, then there was a space that was kind of left empty. And at least in my perspective, there's I'm sure there's going to be a lot of San Diegans who are like, no, they had this space and this space and this space, which is fair. But like I feel like spaces like Elevated in Train of Thought, we brought out poets from all over the country to as a stop here.
Right.
So you got to see a lot of different styles. I feel like a lot of the spaces in between what was happening, they just showcased a lot of local artists, which definitely you need to do. You definitely need to do that. There's nothing wrong with that. But shout outs to Rudy, Francisco, keeping it alive with the San Diego Poetry Slam, keeping that like energy going with that. You have as soon as I was wanted to think about it, there's a lot of different spaces. Underground Poets is another place that does it. There's like uh poetry paint and sip event going on. There's a lot of different places that are doing their thing now, so the community's starting to grow back again. Glassless Minds out in Oceanside, I want to give a shout out to them. But it's yeah, it's growing again. I'll say that
Yeah.
it's growing again.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, what I love about what you and one of the other people that you mentioned here was Rudy Francisco. If you don't know who he is, get from under a rock, person out. But this idea of, well, let me put it a different way. You know, one of the things I've seen, and I've seen this across whether it be in Europe or here, is you have poets and they grow and they get to a certain level, and which is fine, is what you were supposed to do, and then they go out.
Hmm.
A lot of them don't come back,
Hmm.
and then what that then leaves is a gap,
Hmm.
in the space. And there's positives to it as well. I mean, I'm just going to focus on what I consider just a little bit of the negative or the sad part of it, is that if you have a top epsilon, let's say, of poets that are performing in your space, in your area, the
Hmm.
up and coming people are seeing that level,
Yeah.
right? And that's what they're aspiring to.
Hmm.
Then that level leaves. It's almost like now the top level is level 2 and 3, if folks haven't, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so what I've seen is this cyclical thing where sort of the poetry, or I don't want to say um, good or bad poetry, because that's very subjective. But I think the if I can use a word like the the structure of poetry, that's not the right word to use, but it starts to deteriorate until it starts to build back up again. But
Yeah.
the places I think that are stronger places, again, like San Diego, where you're the top of echelon and you're in the space, right? So
Yeah.
there's still that visibility. Folks can still see Rudy,
Mm.
and such. What do you think? Is there a solution for that? Like, how do you think we can, you know?
Oh, that's a good question. Because as an individual, you know, you feel like as an artist, like you want to grow, you
Right.
know? And we were talking about sports. There's, with the nature of slam, there's this competitive, almost like verbally athletic side of you
Right.
that's like, okay, I've been in this league but I see the world as another league that I need to get to. And so you can't really, it's hard to fault the individual for wanting to like branch out. Um, it's really, I guess, making sure that when you're leaving, you're putting it in good hands,
Yes.
that you are like you're actively not just like leaving and dipping and letting whoever wants it is like, yo, I have this community, I've built this thing, like I want you to take it over. I think like with Shion in the Poetry Lounge, you know what I'm saying, when he stopped hosting and stuff, he gave it to some great poets to continue the tradition. So which is also on the flip side, it's kind of hard to give up because you're the star in this place, and then you have to go off and like kind of cut your teeth again, like not a lot of people know you. Like for example, going out to Japan, no one knew who I was, and in San Diego I feel like I'm pretty popular. And so like I was trying to get a feature and they're like, oh no, we don't feature anybody. Which is I totally respect. And I'm like, well, here's my bio. Like I've done a lot, and I'm coming all the way out there. Can I get 10 minutes? And they're like, nah, we just don't do it. But then I went and I rocked the house and I met a lot of good people, made a lot of good contacts and stuff like that. So in one aspect, no, I didn't get that treatment. But at the other thing is that it proved to me that like I'm not just San Diego good. Yeah,
Yes.
you know what I mean?
Yes. Yes. That's
And because as artists, our egos are and our belief in ourselves fluctuate, and we just need that validity that, okay, like this audience way over here, they can still rock with what I'm saying, and that feels good. And that's honestly, that gives you more currency as an artist to continue on doing what you do, more so than any amount of money that someone can give you, you know?
yeah. I agree 100%. To go in, and like you said, cut your teeth, work through that imposter syndrome, you know,
Yeah.
and it helps you grow, because so sometimes you walk into the space and you got to come out and be like, okay, I need to redefine some things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then like, once you've been doing this for a while, you have a certain like style and cadence, but you understand that different audience is gonna listen different, which is my favorite phrase from you. I'm glad that you've kept that as a catchphrase. But so you may have to slow it down, you may have to like you're just adjusting to the different audiences, and I just think it makes you a better poet. I'm just, when all said and done, man, I'm just so proud that so many of my friends that I grew up with poetically are still doing it and doing it at a high level and getting these laureates and doing their thing. Uh, I'm just elated with that, you know?
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. I agree with. I mean, it's just evolving the culture, evolving the art form in the way in which we know it as well, and putting it into those spaces. I mean, again, look at your bio. You're on, I think if you look at what 5, 6 years ago, what TED Talks meant, or even probably before that, what TED Talks meant, you know,
Hmm.
now see the likes of you, like, you know, in front of these audiences,
Hmm.
standing up on these stages, and knowing, regardless of what you're talking about, knowing
Hmm.
that roots come from, this space that we love is phenomenal, man. So sitting back and watching it, like all the flowers. Uh,
And just real quick, uh that's the other thing about the upper echelon, if you will, going out, is that it does get that high level in front of people who have never heard poetry before. Like Rudy was on The Bachelorette, you know what I'm saying? Teaching poetry. Like I've had my plays that feature my poetry, premiere in Toronto and San Francisco and all these other places, and like and me performing at TEDx and in all these other places. It just gets people to understand, because here's the thing that was always my gripe with especially spoken word, is when you see the rendition of it on like TV from non-poets, it's always like a mocking, and it's always like bad poetry, like oh da, 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 and then the cadence and stuff like it, and like there's just I just see so many. And this is not by legit poets; these are like by actors who are trying to. And so when people say like, hey, I'm a poet and this is what I do, and then that's the image that comes to their mind. So when we get more people out there like really doing their thing, then it's better for the community. So I often encourage poets to like, yeah, continue to rock these open mics, but get out to places where there really normally isn't poetry, you know?
yeah, stretch the medium, right? You're doing,
Stretch the medium, yeah. Uh,
say cool. I mean, this he's doing all kinds of stuff.
oh yeah.
Poetry, sort of the ambassador of poetry. Shihan, the
Yeah.
horror movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I do a lot of corporate gigs. Like, there's been a couple times when Sekou, they had Sekou at an event or something in San Diego, and they're like, like the kind of the underlying messages. We couldn't get Sekou, but you're the poor man. Sekou, can you do this gig? And I'm like, I will take his scraps.
Well,
Take his scraps.
we are on the shoulders of everybody, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
hey, it's hilarious. There's something that I've started to do recently, right? Just to see, it's like a match thing for me, with AI and Chat GPT.
Hmm.
And I write in to see what comes up, about the person and whether or not you agree. So according to Chat GPT, the themes that you write about, says his work frequently tackles issues of race, social justice, identity, and community using art as a vehicle to foster dialogue and understanding. Agree or disagree?
Ooh. Read that again. Read that again. Oh.
Put in your name. It says under like the themes you tackle.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
His work frequently tackles issues of race, social justice,
Uh-huh.
identity, and community,
Uh-huh.
with art as a vehicle to foster dialogue and understanding.
Yeah, I would say it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They got you. They got you
The
there.
robot, the robot was right.
Okay, there you go. Robots, exactly. Terminator was right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would expand on it a little bit. Like I feel like the unique thing about me is because I've traveled so much. Like I was in the Navy for 4 years, traveled different parts of the world. Then I was at a travel agency for like 10 years and I got to travel a bunch of parts of the world.
Mhm.
And I really took that time to understand people and culture. So one word that I like to use, I always feel like I'm this bridge between different races, genders, ideologies, everything. So what I really like to bring is perspective, and not you, um not just you understanding my perspective, but understanding that there is perspective, and that like there's often a bigger picture that you see, and we're the hero, often the hero of our own story. So to understand that there's different stories and different sides, I like to let people understand that, um and it also, because of my work in the prison system too, I see that whole side, which is a whole other kind of thing. So yeah.
I love. Thank you for expanding on that. And as part of the what I wanted to do is, with this kind of new segment that I'm doing is see, how much they get right and then what you need to add to it.
Mhm.
The part that I know is going to be tricky, but I ask it anyway within the chat GPT is what's the person's personality? And so that
This is mad. This is bad interesting. Oh my
it
God.
is, dude, because AI is like, and I've got a question for you later on about it, but like, it is, it's scary and super interesting at the same time. I mean, I'm a tech nerd and all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. I love this stuff so much so I went to go see Neil deGrasse
Mm.
yesterday. But going back to this, it says your personality is said you're often described as charismatic, thoughtful, and deeply empathetic. Agree or disagree?
I mean, yeah, yeah. I would say that. I would say that. That's cool. I
I
like it.
Yeah, that tracks for me too. That's what I've seen as well. I'm waiting for the day I put it in and someone's like, this person's an asshole. And
Yeah, I want to see. I want to see what chat. Yeah,
what it says
that's
about that.
interesting.
One of you kind of touched on this a little bit, but one of the questions I love to ask, because of again my love for comics is there's always a hero sort of creation story. Like
Mm.
what's your Marvel or DC creation story? What led you to become a writer, a poet, a performer?
Um. hmm. I would say a lot of time spent alone, because my parents got divorced when I was young, and my sister's 5 years older than me, and she graduated a year early, so I spent a lot of time on my own reading a lot, and then but it was mostly all fiction. And then when I got into the Navy, it was like a kind of a culture shock, because you're meeting people from all over the world, and it was the first time I started reading books of like philosophy and everything, on my own without being assigned, and so I dug deep into that, and just realized that we as humans in this day and age, we're not smarter, we just kind of build on what has been in the past, and a lot of us have that hubris that we think that we're smarter than what was before, and I just found so much wisdom in what was before. Um and so that started it. So I had a lot of time and a lot of it was like this thrust into the world, So started reading philosophy books, had a lot of time and water around me, and then I started visiting all these different cultures, and I couldn't help but to start writing about it, you know? And it was at that exact time when spoken word started booming. Like had this all happened, let's say 10 years prior, before spoken word started booming, then uh I may have been a poet, but I think I may have been like a different type of poet, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, so that it all kind of happened at the same time, you
Mm.
know.
Yeah. What do you think that? and probably isolation is not the right word for it, but again, you mentioned you're in this ship, you're doing around a lot of water. You know,
Yeah.
that did that sort of make you go inward? How did that?
Yeah, because you're just on the ship and you just got you're there for there's times where you be underway for like a month at a time with no land around and you just have a lot of time. And this is like really predominant internet, you
Right.
know, and so you just had a lot of time to like read and write and speak to people. And then yeah, it started out. I was a visual artist for a long time, so I started drawing like portraits of people's wives and stuff like that. And then they saw that I don't know how it came to be. I started writing little things. They wanted me to write little poems with the portraits and stuff like that. And I just started like kind of keeping a journal and just kind of took off from there. And then really the genesis of spoken word in particular is while I was in the Navy, I went and saw Slam in the movie theater. And
Okay.
then that just,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and then after I remember going back into my car and just I couldn't stop writing. And then it just took off from there.
Know that that's the same thing that you're doing for a bunch of people, my friend.
I hope so, man.
Know that. Um, you've you've uh, you've done a lot. There's been so much, like I said, since we first met in SoCal. And I want to chat for a minute. Like, your bucket is filled with things like, and this is one new addition, artist, graphic artist, right? But that includes a DJ, Navy veteran,
Yeah.
poet, playwright, TEDx, San Diego presenter, et cetera,
Yeah.
all of the things. What were you most unsure of when starting to embark on that particular thing?
Good question. I would probably say the playwriting.
Mm,
It could be very technical. And I wasn't trained at it. Like, I work for two theaters now, two prominent theaters in America. Like a lot of the shows that start at the La Jolla Playhouse or the Old Globe go on to Broadway, like directly to Broadway. And so I've just been around like some amazing theater makers and coming from where I'm from Oxnard, California, and not being trained in it, steeped in it. I didn't like grow up a theater kid, you know. It could be intimidating, you know what I'm saying? But I just it art to me. I remember working at the travel agency and like when I had any amount of time or there's any lull, even if I was on the clock, I'd be writing or doing something or walking around the building on my breaks, like spitting poems to get ready to go to the lounge that night. You know what I mean? So art to me, like I have to do it.
yeah,
Have
yeah,
to do it. So I feel imposter syndrome a lot, but I also have this effort gene in my body that like allows me to like fail forward, and it's served me a lot, and so
yeah.
yeah.
It's funny that you answered playwright because that was going to be like my next question. Just, I've seen some folks transition from, poet to, I don't know if you want to call it, because I don't know the full definition, to be quite honest, of a playwright, right? But they
Hmm.
they they transition from performance poet and then they're writing plays and
Hmm.
things of that sort, and maybe that's because it transitions to a one man show or something like that.
Hmm.
What you see those movements, but I think what's overlooked is that transition and what it takes to make that transition. So,
Yeah.
like, what was the, I get, before saying, okay, having the imposter, what was unsure of it, but what is the difference for you between that, I'm on stage talking in front of people or competition or whatever, and
Hmm.
now, like you said, there's some technical sides of it, but what's the difference between that and the playwriting?
Well, the playwriting is you're really, if you really steep yourself into it, you're taking yourself out of it. It and the parts of you that are in the play are all kind of subliminal. Like, so now you're letting your characters speak for you or speak for themselves, and they're all a part of you essentially, but they take on their own lives. And I had been writing short stories ever since like junior high, so like storytelling has always been a part of me. And even in my poetry, like I often told stories through that. But like, just to be able to understand character and conflict, like there's elements of that in poetry, because even like when we get up and start performing, we have to tap into the version of us that we need to be like for that poem. You know what I'm saying? Like, if we're hurt in that poem, we have to get hurt, even if right before then we were talking about the game. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to get into that space. So uh but with playwriting, you're getting into that, like you're there's a lot of different spaces, and there's like a story math, like how this person, what they want, like, and they have to have, is in direct conflict with another person, and something that they have to have. And then when it's really beautiful, you can see as an audience the both sides are correct, but both sides can't get what they want. And to be able to do that, and then to weave a theme into it, you know what I'm saying? So like, let's say the theme is like power. So each character in the whole play, how they use power, or they abuse power, or they have a lack of power, how does that show up in what they want and what they're trying to get? So you're like there's more math to it in the art of storytelling. And especially, I just finished a novel, writing a novel, and that's the longest document I've ever written, 450 pages.
Wow.
And so to like weave that into that long form is like my new challenge. I'm editing it right now. But like, going back to playwriting, um yeah, it's a lot more thinking than and putting it all together. It's almost like the poetry of it is the icing of the cake. So like, when I'm putting it all together, I'm making sure these characters seem authentic and they sound different from each other, all that other stuff. And then at the last kind of glaze that I put on it is, let me make this feel poetic,
Yeah.
with the words. Whereas like with poetry, you can just start with the poetry and the poetics of it, and it's just you, and you know exactly how you're gonna say it. That's the other thing, is you're writing for actors, so how you would say it and how you would emphasize it is a lot different than someone else. And a lot of times, I've learned as being a writer, once you submit your stuff and they accept it, then it's kind of out of your hands. It depends on who is the producer, because a lot of times they'll I've had pieces of my stuff, and like, the actor said it, and I'm like, that is not how I heard it, and that is not, but you can be, but a lot of times you're not the actor in it, the director in it, the da da da. So you have to like give that up, so you have to write it in a way that what your vision is clear. Whereas poetry, you can write it however you want, and you know how you're gonna
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah, project it.
So does that, I'm assuming, because what I'm hearing in there sometimes is sort of your perspective of how you view the audience is different. I'm a visual person, so I can imagine as a poet, like you're here facing the audience.
Mhm.
And I imagine as sort of like a playwright in that sense, it's almost opposite, right? Um, you have to see how the audience is going to receive the thing.
Yeah, and it's how they're going to receive your writing, but then also how the actors is interpreting it. It's really like giving up your baby.
Mm,
In poetry, you don't have to.
right.
You literally have to. And let's say you put in all this work in your play. You've painstakingly went over every single word, comma, whatever. And then an actor would be like, this doesn't feel right. Let me just, like, on the first read, and like, can I say this instead? And you don't have to do that for yourself, but you're just like, there has to be a certain like, this is like incubator, this care and everything, and then you got to give it to somebody that you may or may not trust. And
Yeah.
that's the difficult part. And so it's hard to even watch my plays play out sometimes. Like it's so much fun writing it, so much fun in rehearsals, but then, sometimes in the execution, you're like, you know,
Vulnerable all over again.
it's super vulnerable. It's super vulnerable.
Wow. What's your favorite? We're gonna get to your books in a minute. What's your favorite song to play during a DJ set? And,
Ooh.
and does it alter by the type of event? Like, is there a banger that plays in every space? And don't say Sweet Caroline.
No, actually, you know what? That's funny is I'm DJing a wedding right after this, and that was one of the songs they have on their playlist.
Of course.
Uh, um, I love to play if I can get away with it. Like if I'm doing like often I'll do like a poolside lounge, like a poolside, at a big hotel here in San Diego. I'll be DJing at the pool and stuff like that. Um, I like to play but I have this like really funky version. Uh, Austin, I forget his last name. He's like a house DJ, like a house hip hop DJ. But I have a version of As by Stevie Wonder that I like to play. Uh, I love playing Ain't Nobody by Shaka Khan. Ain't nobody. Like I think everybody just like it makes people feel good, you know?
It bubbles your DNA, dude.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And I would say pretty much at every wedding that I DJ, I'll play Don't Stop Till You Get Enough by Michael Jackson.
Really. And it doesn't
Mhm.
matter the crowd, whether it doesn't matter the ethnicity of
No,
the all.
no. I'll
Michael
play it every single time.
Yes, Michael Jackson is universal.
He is. Yes.
Get it. Um, uh, if the latest your latest book, which we're going to get into, and we can get you to read some of this work to us, equally
Hmm.
strange, different.
Hmm.
I saw the title, it immediately put me in a space of that this is going to be very personal. One of the synopsis says it's celebrating our differences while seeking out the things that hold us as humans together. Uh,
Hmm.
talk to us a little bit about the genesis of this book. Like, what's the why that you put this together?
Yeah. I just saw the country and even on a micro scale, our communities um, tearing apart in ways that I've never seen before.
Mm.
Um, and I mean, you could see it with this last election, and I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me, but like I just strongly believe that family and the people you love are often are bigger than politics, and the people that you need. And I understand why other people will like break apart. Uh, it's one thing to need space. That's legit. You know what I'm saying? But to disavow people, I think I just see it. I see certain religions do that. Like if you don't agree with what I agree, then you're disowned, you're disavowed, and stuff like that. And I just saw that there's a lot of things that are pull us apart, but if you really take the time to think about it, and that's what the book is trying to attempt to do, there's a lot more things that bring us together, you know? And I've just always been that way. And so I want to celebrate that. I want to celebrate our differences. Like we don't need to be colorblind. Like we can celebrate our differences. And then and but at the same time we can like try to actively find the things that we can come together on, you know? And that's kind of the world that I want to live in. So I speak to that. And like I told you, I feel like my job is to be a bridge. And there's many people that I don't agree with who are my close friends. But I'm gonna sit down with them. We're gonna break bread. We're gonna have a good laugh or whatever. And if it, I, yeah, I just saw a big division, man, and it hurt my heart because there's a lot of good out there. There's just so much good. Like there's a website that I agree I subscribe to. It's called Good News Network or something like that. Have you heard of that?
No,
And it's a newsletter that only reports stories of like good things happening.
write that down.
Yeah, I'll get you the actual. Let me see if I can find it on my email while I'm looking. But like, and so pretty much every day I just scour, I look through that. I get all the negative news all the time, all the places. But it like, man, we just have to guard what we intake.
Yeah, so true.
We have
So
to
true.
guard what we intake because it just turns us into the type of people that we're railing against. You know what I'm saying? Like the temperaments of who we're railing against. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
No, it's very true, man. I mean, look, even just, we touched in the beginning about this Tyson fight, you know,
Hmm.
and I found myself like rushing home to see this. And I'm like, what am I rushing home actually to see? You know what I mean? But there's
Yeah.
so much hype and so much stuff about it, the story, the train wreck, the whatever it is,
Hmm.
that we've created a society that's so tied to. Like if would I've rushed home if it was like, um, let's check out the wonderful conversation they're going to have at 5 p.m. today.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'll rush home. I'll be like, oh, I can record that.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And you know what's was actually the best part of actually the fight, the event itself. Tyson did like this hour-long interview on all the smoke boxing from a former boxer. And he was like, you gotta check it out, Shaka, just on a personal level. You just saw how his intellect works, and he was just so deep and thoughtful and engaging. And it was like, it really, like, I was only gonna watch for a second, but I ended up watching the whole thing. It was like really insightful to see how he thinks. And like, yeah, man, it was great.
Well, he's a
So
genius of the art. You know what I mean? Of that particular
mhm,
art, so it makes sense.
mhm,
Um, are we going to get one more question before we get into giving you the microphone?
sure.
And uh, it's sort of a, I don't know if it's a convoluted question or a complex question, but
Mm,
it touches on the edges of this imposter. The imposter piece of it is, especially with the topic that you're thinking about. Look, I've looked at the world and I am not happy with this,
mhm,
and I'm going to do something about it. And then you
mhm,
decide, I'm going to write this, I'm going to put this book together.
mhm,
Like, how does that happen? You know what I mean? It's like, how do you go from, I'm this one person in this world of million people,
mhm,
they're going to listen,
mhm,
or is that, or the other side of it, like, sometimes, when you do slam, sometimes you go, or not even slam, you go do a performance, and you sometimes there's a poem you need the people, there's a poem that you want to say, and then there's a poem that like you need to do.
mhm, mhm.
So it's I'm still trying to find my way through this question,
Yeah.
make it clear, but how do you manage that? Like, here's this important thing I want to say. I'm gonna do a book. And
Yeah. Yeah. A couple things that I'm thinking. One is I just heard a quote recently that I thought was beautiful, and I'm paraphrasing it. I don't have the quote exactly, but the quote was you don't build a nation with your friends. You build it with your enemies. So if you really think about it, you know what I'm saying? Like all of us coming together, you're gonna have enemies. But if we want to build a beautiful nation, there's gonna be compromises, and so we have to recognize what's equally strange and beautifully different about ourselves in order to build something that is worth having. You know, if you even if you look at any kind of nonprofit, I've worked in nonprofits for a while. If you look at any nonprofit or any organization, you're going to have, and they're all, let's say, their organization is to bring more arts into prisons, which is something that I do, right? I teach Shakespeare in prisons, and even within that, where everybody has this like kind of bleeding heart, there's still going to be
Right.
tension in that, but the if we look at the bigger picture, we're all trying to do good and we're all trying to do the best for our people, then we get a lot further ahead than like, I don't like this little thing about this person and we can't then you can't get ahead, or I'm only going to surround myself with people who think exactly like me, and then you don't really build anything. And so yeah, so going back to the book, I've just, same with you, man. I've just been doing this for so long, and in so many different spaces. I just see it. Like I have these glasses that see the common humanity in people, no matter what the race or color. Like and and it's always been in my DNA. In high school, I was voted most friendly because I was like, I wasn't a jock per se, but I knew all the jocks. I was cool with them. I knew all the nerds. I knew all the jazz cats. And so I would just float around to different people. In When I got into the spoken word realm in LA, you know what I'm saying? I was kind of in that world, but not of it, meaning that I came from Oxnard and I came from a different world and I wasn't in the LA culture like that. You know what I mean? Like I hung out and I did had fun and stuff like that. And even when I got to San Diego, I was from Oxnard, Ventura, and they had their own kind of clique that they would use me to DJ or they would use me to, perform or whatever, and I would hang out sometimes, but like I wasn't officially in that clique, and I'm okay with that. I'm always like moving around, like I'm a Christian, so in that going. I found that the same poems I could do in a church, I could do in a bar, I could do in a slam. And going to your point, I write the poems that I need to hear
Yes.
first. And then the thing that I always do, 2,000 people in the audience, I say to myself before I perform, I touch my heart and I say, let me at least reach one person. Like, let what I have to say, like, really touch one person, because I want my poems to be not just about me. Writing it was for me.
Right.
Once I get it to that performance stage, it's for the world. I have to be independent of the results of that. Of course, I want people to like it, but I gave up a long time ago coming up in slam trying to be the dopest poet. I need to be a beautiful poet. I need to touch people's hearts and minds. In order and this is a gift that God has given me to try to heal the thing that is tearing in any way that I can. There's poets out there, and God bless them. They're like, this is what's wrong, this is what's wrong, this is what's wrong. And there's a space for that because we have to have our eyes open to what is wrong. But in all of my poems, I try to also say, okay, this may be what's wrong, but this is also how we can heal from that. This is how we can really start to talk about it in a way that is um going to move the needle forward. You know what I'm saying? I always think about, okay, whatever the poem is, where's the redemption in it? You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Even if the poem is just about me, even within myself, or with the world at large.
That's beautiful, man. Like you are giving me so many quotable quotable moments in this session. This is
Uh,
fantastic. But I think that's a great segue to get into you reading some of the wonderful work for us. So
uh,
turn the mic over to you. To
yeah.
work.
And just want to hold up the book, Equally Strange, Beautifully Different. That's my son there. Um, and yeah, okay. So before I start, I'm gonna say this because I got to. E- the best gift that I've ever been given is that my son at 8 years old asked to read my book. He said, "Can I have a copy?" He brings it to school and reads it all the time. He like keeps a copy in his backpack, reads it to his friends and other teachers, and now he's trying to hustle and sell it. Uh, but I asked him what he thought, because a lot of stuff is about him in here and my other kids, and he's like, it's heartfelt, Dad. He's like, I teared up a little bit, and that like
Done.
I'm done. I'm
Done.
done. And so we're gonna have a celebration on Monday, a big celebration at the downtown San Diego library. And he's gonna open with his first public poem. So
That's amazing.
yeah,
It's so
yeah,
amazing. And it's so relevant right now with this book I'm working on. So
yeah,
I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that, man. That
yeah,
I'm sure that meant a lot to you. That
yeah,
means a lot to me. And so
yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Uh, when I come and pick him up, he's like, he says it loud in front of his teachers. This is the world famous poet. You need to hire him. It's so funny.
Trying to get
So
Jordans. Don't get it twisted.
right, right, yeah. Um, uh, so you're ready to start? I'm ready to start.
Absolutely. Go in.
Okay. Um, I never know in these kind of Zoom sessions whether or not like people you like say the titles and all that other stuff. It's like whatever it is. But
Just
this first one is called it's the first poem of the book, and it's called This Messed Up and Majestic Machine, and it talks a lot about what all these things that we've been talking about. So here it goes. And it's told in three parts, kind of like a book itself. Prologue. We all start off with such soft hands, barely able to grasp onto anything. I've been obsessed with hands lately. So when my daughter puts her tiny brown fingers on my face, I'm telling y'all, no quest or request is insurmountable. As small as they are, children's hands hold all of their parents' heavy hopes in them. The strange thing is, the younger the hands, the more dreams they are asked to carry. As hands grow, our parents' desires for us are harder to hold, become slick with conditional love, slammed doors, broken childhoods in pieces on unforgiving floors. I kiss my children's fingers often, even though I know damn well they are all under 8 and I have a good idea where them nasty ass fingers have been. But I tell them I will try not to place anything in their palms they are not ready to carry. I might be lying to myself or to them. Deep down, I know it is not up to me. See, God whispers to our children's aspirations and abilities while their mother and I busy ourselves with all the things that busy us. So, as painful as it might be, our job as parents is not to make them simply obey, but to help them fall in love with listening. Chapter 1. I believe I was placed on this planet. I believe we were placed on this planet from struggling student to cunning CEO for maintenance. Don't matter what your outfit looks like, you may not be as pretty as you think. It all looks like overalls to me. It looks like hands dirty, knees aching, taking care of your section of this machine. So ask yourself, what is your job? Like, really ask yourself, what is your job? Are you a heart softener or a laugh generator? Are you a child herder or a mind quieter? Are you a faith restorer, professional ear lender, or peace of mind practitioner? The title and amount on your paycheck is irrelevant. The same goes for what type of toys you have or social image you project. If you are not participating in your job, if you are not walking the unpaved path of your real mission, you are failing us. You are failing yourself. What is your version of special? What is your aversion to the magic inside of you? In layman's terms, why are you making everything so complicated? There's something that you like to do that make other people happy. There's a way about you that makes someone else's way a bit lighter, a bit easier. It may not necessarily be how you primarily procure your pesos, even if it's a side passion, connect with it, exact your God breath into the fog of nothing, and create everything you're supposed to. Engage with your unspoken until you convince her to sing. Chapter 2. At this exact moment, you were an idea away from a dream. You were a dream away from a thought. You were a thought away from a conversation. You were a conversation away from a vision. And you were a vision away from an act that is going to absolutely affect someone's life. But don't get too big headed. Like I said, you might not be as pretty as you think. It all looks like grease stained overalls to me. Movie star or manicurist, the work is still hands dirty, knees aching, taking care of your people, your section of this messed up and majestic machine. Chapter 3. Going through a divorce was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. It would have been easier if she was a banshee, android using credit ruining cat person, but alas, she likes dogs and iPhones. She is a kind and beautiful and giving person, but ultimately, I knew that the person that she said she needed and the person I knew I was meant to become could not exist in the same place at the same time. One was on this stage, the other was in the audience with you, wishing I was on this stage. I had to do my job. I am on this mic risking a fall into the ego piercing river of judgment in order to build bridges. And to join me on my chasm finding mission, I have to find someone who loves me at the best of my terrible, unpolished, clumsily leading the charge, tripping over the stones and snares of my own shortcomings. I can't tell you how many times I have failed at simply speaking my truth. Speak your truth, Gil. Please just speak your truth. But I have no time to dwell on that. We all have work to do. This maintenance won't maintain itself. Transformation is synonymous with actualization, the peeling of the prettiness of your perceived persona and the emergence of you, raw, hands dirty, knees aching, exhausted, but happy and fulfilled, taking care of your people, your section of this messed up and majestic machine. Epilogue. We have no chance of understanding the book of our lives if we never pick up the pen. We become side characters in our own stories, episodes dedicated and dictated by the actions of everyone who thinks they have a leading role in your life. Hardcover or paperback, thread or glue, however you are put together, you must define for yourself which roles, missions, and relationships bind you. As for me, I'm going to start with these soft ass writer's hands. As they weather and harden, I will try my best to hold on to and connect precious moments and people. I've discovered it is my job to do the hard and often dirty work of building bridges, as pretty as I might be. All right. So the next piece, I don't know where this came out of. It just I just love it. And it's called The Ballad of Oranges. Here we go. Short one. An orange can never be an apple. It often tries to be red and passionate, but it can never be an apple. It is envious of the bright of an apple's green, how it is loved and cared for by grannies, how it could be devoured cold or hot, covered in caramel and nuts, or baked in a pie. An orange is nothing if not depression disguised by sugary citrus. However, when an orange decides to get free, its decision starts at its roots. It knows it came from the earth, from wisdom, from truth. True, its skin is not as desired as apples, discarded and unappreciated. But I'm telling you, when an orange decides to get free, it discovers there are seeds of greatness inside, future trees inside, revolutionary oranges just waiting to be fresh. Oh, I'm telling you, when those oranges get free, y'all, when they realize they were meant for more than just hanging from trees, it will be a bright day indeed. So this is for all my naranjas chilling on street corners or in bodegas feeling like they are trapped in a box, sold on freeway exits like they were worth next to nothing. Homie, do not let them convince you to curse your skin. They may see it as bitter, but please realize that orange skins can even make garbage smell sweeter. Orange skins are tough because what's inside is so precious. An orange is not an apple, so do not play by the apple's rules. Find your own way to be great in your own terms. Get free, my orange, get free. You got the juice now. All right. These Zooms, this is like going like giving me PTSD of COVID doing all these Zooms to like no kind of feedback. And I see Shaka's waving his hands, but like it's just it's a different thing. And another thing, because I haven't done a Zoom performance in a minute, is usually you can do small gestures like poets, a lot of poets we speak with our hands, and you can do small gestures and you don't or even big gestures, but during Zoom you have this small window, so I have to keep my hand movements up here, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm doing gang signs. um and so it's always an interesting thing because it like changes how you read the work. All right, hope we're having a good time. Speaking of COVID, this is a perfect segue because this next poem I wrote during, I think the next two I wrote during COVID, and it was a time where like everything shut down, and I just had the kids, and at first it was hard, but then you quickly realize these are the people that I want to spend the most time with. And then I flipped it in my mind like this is a real blessing, and I need to capture this in verse to understand how I'm really feeling about it. So this poem is called "We'll Never Have This Again," and this is for my kids. This is about being a father. I did this for a Father's Day thing too. We'll never have this again. We will never have this again. You this small and me this strong. You this impressed with my ability to simply walk into the room. Impressed by your ability to turn my legs into animated trees that you can swing from. You like how I can reach things on the top shelf. You're even impressed how I can pee standing up. I build toy kingdoms that you are an expert at Godzillaing your way through. I throw you high into the blue of the afternoon, and I never miss your descent. Well, I mean, just that once, but we ain't telling mama about that, right? We will never have this again. You believing police helicopters over our house are the coolest thing. Me knowing they are looking for things that I don't want you to ever see. You believing all the asphalts and sidewalks bump and dip and crack like ours, that houses are supposed to have bumps and dips and cracks like ours. Me knowing that 5 to 10 pay grades west, they got streets smoother than a politician's promise. Me promising to get you there someday, telling you that our rough roads are simply part of the adventure. You believing me, you always believing me. We will never have this again. Me pouring sugar on truth, sugar on truth, sugar on your skin. You cinnamon, baby girl, pure cinnamon. You caramel, little man. Daddy's hungry. Give me that baby toe to gobble right up. Where are you going? Ah. Fatherhood is a contract, unwritten, with ink that never dries, with language vastly open to interpretation, on paper, still alive. We are a testament to eternity. And although I will need multiple mental health breaks, I promise you, it's going to take more than that tantrum of yours that is going to make me ever want to leave your side. It is my job to make sure you inherit less emotional baggage than I had to carry, or at the very least, better prepare you. I take this love seriously, how dangerous this world is seriously, how beautiful this world can be when we have fun taking it seriously. And we only have these brief moments to get it all done. So on the days I squeeze you longer and tighter than your boundless energy can entertain, just allow me this quiet vulnerability for a moment. We will never have this exact us again. Let's go to the place where you don't hurt and I don't work. The place in the picture we love that freezes the sunlight on our faces and the youth in our bodies. Pause that part of the video in the middle of your dance, mid thrust, mid air, off beat, the indivisible, undeniable you and me. And I know we can't stay here forever, little one. Even in this digital age, we get lost in the hard drives of our need for individual ambitions. But for this moment, little one, I am pretending that time passed us by like that turtle shaped clouds you like to point out. Now I'm going to gobble them little toes right up. Ugh. How long will you long for me to be your monster? How long will it take you to find the sword of puberty and consider me a monster? How many mistakes do I get in raising you and disappointing your mother? What if I just say no? You are not allowed to leave this moment, to grow into another body, to get too heavy to lift you over the crowd so you can see what is coming, so that the only thing you have to deal with is your imagination. And that's still filled with furry neon and sweet things that make your mouths and hands sticky. And I got backpacks and several diaper bags full of sugar. Not that sweet and low stuff either. I'm talking pure cane sugar, sugar on truth, sugar on your skin, you cinnamon baby girl. Pure sweet, spicy cinnamon. And I want you to yell that to any insecurity that questions you. You are caramel, little man. Daddy's hungry. Give me that disillusionment to gobble right up. Kids, we don't have to leave this castle until we want to. Okay? Let's just sit here and pretend that time forgot us. All right. Got a couple more. Here's a short haiku. It's called Statistics Sharpen Statistics. You got statistics. I got counter statistics. Who wins if love fails? All right. This one I was tasked to write a poem during the riots. I was commissioned to write a poem. And this poem, like they got a bunch of black actors to read sections of the poem. And it's one of those things where you have to give away your baby. And like, people's interpretation of my poem was just wild. But it was cool. It was cool to see. And she gave me like I want this poem to be like she gave me an example of somebody else doing these like protest poems during it, and I just had all these mixed feelings. Like I didn't want to speak for all black people. I needed to just speak for me. And the riots were happening like right down the street from my house. In fact, the stores that I shopped, they looted and vandaled and broke in. Like I didn't understand why Play It Again Sports was a victim of what was going on. But so it was just like, and so I had this need to protect my family. I had a need to understand. A lot of my white friends or non-black friends were like asking me for answers to explain everything. So all this was going on. And I know a lot of poets had to deal with the same thing. It's called In Love. In love, I lace my Converse, buckle my pants. I don a shirt that allows for mobility, and I give myself one last look in this mirror. I really need to clean this thing, but right now that doesn't matter. What I really need is one final moment to bathe in this reflection and convince myself I am what I say I am. No excuses, no takebacks or apologies. Say my name. In love, I hop in the car, the whip, the ride, the hoopty, on my bike, on the bus. This is a beautiful day to just walk. And I turn up music that makes me feel powerful, beautiful, proud, intelligent, gangster, connected, hella black. I'm saying hella black, and I love it. I require my music louder than you might like because I need my head right before I got to clock in. Attend this meeting, smile in your condescending face, deal with your microaggressions, address this officer, show my ID, show my receipt, code switch, apply for this loan, apply for this job, meet your family, and or stop you from touching my hair. Say my name. In love, I invite you to my family's barbecue. I'll play in your league. I'll make you feel welcomed in my church, in my restaurant, on my block, at my spades table, around my children, at my concerts, in my damn house, on my skin, between my lips and out my mouth. You lay your pillow upon my hospitality, knowing you have 400 years of conditioning and an entire police force to cover any nighttime chills you might face. Say my name. In love, I can't stand the way you look at me sometimes. Like you're figuring out where in this hour you're going to find another hoop for me to jump through or entertain you with or slam a ball through or slap around my wrist. Like I'm okay for the moment, but I better not dare get any more familiar. Like I need to stay a sitcom away, a football field away, an NBA court, a concert stage, a car stereo, a manager, a publicist, an agent, a supervisor, and a neighborhood away. Say my name. I'm asking you in love to show me the same respect and consideration that you want me to show you. You act like I don't see the adoration that you show your pets. You will kiss them openly in the mouth, but you get uneasy shaking my hand, allowing me in your space if I'm not working it or even seeing me as worth your time. I know it can't be all of you. I'm generalizing, but doesn't that just suck? So if you're ready, I think it's time we met. I mean, I've entertained, loved, served, obeyed, worked for, hired, admired, listened, educated, slaved for, amused, and scared you for so long you think we know each other a lot better. How about we start with names? Me first this time. My name is Sandra. My name is George. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Trayvon. I'm Ahmad. Sean, Brianna. My name is Natasha. I'll just stop there for a second. I know that's a mouthful, but didn't I hear you say over and over again you were hungry for justice? Good. I'm glad we're in agreement. Then say my name. In love. I've been in love with my people since Aretha. No, before that, since Nina, since Fats and Langston, since Marcus, Frederick, and Madam CJ, since my mama taught me that my head should default in the up position, that I am what I say I am, that whips won't stop this love inside of me, that shackles won't stop this love inside of me, that police dogs, nooses, hoods, handcuffs, food deserts, detention centers, defunded schools, community centers, or derogatory jokes behind my back won't stop this love inside of me. You tried it all. Try me. I know I'm worth every bit the same as you. My life matters. Say it. Say it in love, because when we were free, we didn't start our own KKK. We just wanted our God-given legal right to sit at the same polished table that you ate from, and we still don't got it. So you say it. Say it in love, because if you love your neighbor, then you love me. If you love your teachers and your doctors, if you love your soldiers and your emergency workers, then you have to love me. And you want to know something funny? Despite all that has been done to me for over 400 years, I love you too, because you're a human being, because your laugh sounds just like my grandfather's, because you quote Shakespeare almost as good as my uncle, because you cried with me when Prince died, because you were holding a sign next to me at this protest, because you were holding my hand in church, because you made diversity matter to your company, because you taught your children our history. And what do you know? It ain't even February. In love, I come home at the end of the day, knowing that I might not even be safe there. I kick off my worn Converse, strip the pants and shirt. Still haven't had time to clean this damn mirror. It's exhausting trying to play catch up. I can think of nothing better to do than to wash off the residue of, well, everything. But first, I need this mirror. I need to let myself know that I am what I say I am, that I have a name worth saying. Love. And that's that. I have one more short one, but I don't know if we have the time. It's up to you. Go ahead.
Yep, do it. Do
All
it.
right. All right, here we go. This is called purpose. I like to often end in this, and this is for everybody out there. This is going back to like, I hope someone picks up a little bit of what I'm putting down. There's a purpose in your story. There are wings, there are hidden things in your story. There are triumphs, there's failure in your story. Skin knees and hidden fees in your story. It costs to love. There's purpose missing from your day. From sunrise to sunset, we obey. The unlock, the construct, here's the rub. We are both the master and our own slave. The chains display when we fail to care and succeed to crave. Purpose is literally the art form of creatively giving your gifts away. Blessings if you do it for free. Kudos if you found a way to get well paid. I'm still working on that, Shaka. Mission is still the same. Freedom through vision, flight through higher purpose, strength by helping other people penetrate the wall that is imprisoning their potential. Who knew we were that strong? We stand 10 toes down with beautiful minds contemplating future skies. And if we get this right, I mean, really right, you and me and you, we gonna make it through by jackhammer or by spoon, purposefully Shawshanking our redemption. Living in purpose is like wearing platform shoes when they were still cool, or trying to be the only sober one at a Snoop Dogg concert. You can't help but to get on higher frequencies like dog whistles. Are you hearing love speak? Are you hearing love speak? Are you hearing the frequency of when love speaks, when your partner gives you the rest of their remaining energy, when all they wanted to do was to shut out the world and get off of their aching feet? You see, purpose is often sacrificing your temporary wants for your tribe's permanent needs. There's purpose in your search. Joy in pooling in all of your experience and swimming in the choppy waters of good work. Purpose is a rhyme that doesn't always work, doesn't hit the right rhythm. It is a clumsily constructed poem. Your purpose is the moon. You can't see all the angles right now, but if you're patient and you stay in this field, and keep your eyes on the soft horizon, I promise you, light will shine on its entire surface soon. It is at that exact moment you will know exactly what to do. But if you can't wait to get ahead, then look back. Shaka, everybody listening, yo, there's purpose in your story. There are wings, there are talents, there are hidden things in your story. Share with someone the hard work it took to ascend your allegory. I'm so proud of you. Don't let the rest of this life, this year, this day go by and working on something that you really believe in. It's important. It's passion. It's pure. It feels like ego, but they just happen to be wearing the same outfit that day. Don't worry. What you were meant to do is going to be really big to a small number of people. My only question is, what exactly are you waiting for? Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Your work has such a um, it's such a unique way of sort of again, as you know, I'm a visual person. It's like a blanket. You know,
Hmm.
it's like when you put your kids to sleep and they get on the bed and then you do that with the
Yeah.
blanket and it just comes and lays on them and then keeps them like warm at night. That's how you work. That's how I would talk about what your work.
That's better than the way Chat GPT put it.
Which is why they're robots.
Hmm.
Um, this is thank you so much for sharing your work, for talking about sort of the genesis of where this is coming from, and frankly, the love that is pouring sort of out of this book. I usually have two sections after this, but I know we're running close on time. But there is one section that I want to make sure that we go through. Well, actually, no, it's our time. Y'all stay on because I got this. What you touched on it a little bit before. Um, about what your family thinks. What your son was thinking about this book. But what does your family think of your writing and your what you do in the world?
They're proud of me. They're gonna hate me for saying this, but there's they're all proud of me, and I don't really think a lot of them like read it. That's just the plight of the artist. You know what I'm saying? Like all the strangers that come up with you that you got to get the love from. Often it's not your family.
That's
And so but I do have like distant cousins. They're like, man, I still listen to your Elephant Heart CD, and I be playing it for people and da 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 da. And so that's a good feeling. But they're all proud of what I do, definitely.
That's fantastic. This other question I do have, and it's specifically for you because you're a DJ. If this last book you did, if it was a song, what
Mhm.
song would the book be?
Uh, I mean, I'm gonna go back to my favorite song, and it's fun. So funny that like Jimmy Fallon asked Common and Pete Rock what the best song ever made was, and I was just so elated that they picked my favorite song, which is As. So in the lyrics, it's like I'll be loving you until all these impossible things happen. If those things happen, then I'll stop loving you. But if till eight times eight times eight equals four, you know what I'm saying? So like, um, uh, I'll with this book and everything that I do, I'm gonna be loving humanity in general, um, until I'm done, and I'm gonna do my best to do that.
I love that. I love that. If you had to choose, you said you're editing one of the other books a new
Enough.
book, right, a novel that you're working on. But with this book, that equally strange, beautifully different. If you could pick an editor, for this book,
Mm,
now contemporary, old, passed away, who would
mhm.
who would you have wanted to edit the book and why?
Um, if I'm being quite honest, like if I'm being like honest,
Mhm.
um, there's this poet. that I really love. His name is Shaka Campbell.
So stupid.
And no, I'm serious. I would get you to do it. I will get you to do it
Oh, man.
because and there's specific reason, man. Like I legitimately consider you a mentor. I legitimately consider like if they talk about like who's my favorite poets, then your name always comes up because you just write in a way that um it's like a painting. You describe my poetry as a blanket. I describe your poetry as a painting, and often or what else? No, it's more like a D'Angelo song. So with D'Angelo, you love the sonically, you love how it sounds. And then each and you but you may not understand every single word of it. You know what I'm saying? And then each time you listen to it, then you understand more and more, and then you even appreciate the sonic ness of it even more and more. And then if you ever get a chance to listen to the lyric, and he does that purposely because he in the past his songs you can hear every single word clearly as he progressed. If you've listened to later ones, like he muddles it on purpose, right? So the more you listen to it, and if you can get the words, you're like, oh, that's what you're saying, and then it goes into another level. So there's like lots of different levels to that. I would say either you or Donnie Jackson.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you guys are phenomenal. So
I appreciate this. This is your flowers, though, but
yeah.
I do appreciate it.
Yeah.
The last piece that I have for us is I call it the quick fire round.
Okay.
In the quick fire round, I'm gonna say a name. I'm gonna say a word or maybe a phrase, and you can then repeat what's the first thing that comes to your mind, right?
This is
In
gonna get me in trouble.
in the term of a, it could be one word, two words, but not like a whole, not a
Yeah.
story. It's like,
Yeah.
but so here we go. First word, poetry.
Um Powerful.
San Diego.
Uh Sun.
Kendrick Lamar.
Lyricist.
Art.
Important.
Language.
Necessary.
Blood.
Mm. Uh Ties.
Pain.
Necessary.
Navy.
Um uh uh a means to an end.
Marines.
They're crazy. Marines are crazy.
Lineage.
Lineage. Mm, Introspective.
Woman.
Uh, Everything.
Black woman.
Everything 2.0.
War.
Ah, Sad.
Laughter.
Uh, Healing.
Loss.
Mm, Graduation.
Religion.
Mm, Misused.
Theater stage.
Mm, Battleground.
Andre 3000.
Fresh as hell.
Shakespeare.
Um, mm, Powerful.
Slam poetry.
A means to an end.
Father.
Everything I am.
Son.
My light.
Daughter.
My heart.
Thank you. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for your time, dude. This was so amazing. I was looking forward to. I look forward to all of sort of the BBBs, but I was really looking forward to because I feel like as I said in the beginning, like there's so much I know and so much I don't know, and
Hmm.
and and the inferences,
Hmm.
and part of the reason why I was getting into the Chat GPT questions in the beginning is because I feel like, from what I've seen, who you are is who you are, you
Yeah.
know, and that is not only amazing to see, it is very difficult to do, to accomplish, in the world that we live in. So I want to thank you for the time you spent today. I want to thank
Mm.
you for what you do and what you bring out into the world. And really, especially with this book, I want to thank you for the courage, right? For the courage and the I guess the wherewithal to be like, yeah, I want to see something different.
Yeah.
I'm not just going to be I'm not going to talk about it in the corners or the back ends of living rooms and stuff like that. I'm going to put something out to the world, and um because I want to see a change, and I want to talk about it. And so I thank you for that kind of courage and that kind of caring for who we are in humanity. But
Thank
this
you, man.
definitely, this is terrific, and we're gonna get you back on once you get. How close are we to the new novel?
I gotta find some place to publish it, man. But like, I'm about like, I paid a lot for like this expert editor,
Right.
and so I'm probably like 2 months of going through all her notes and 2 months away of like it being ready to submit to publishers and stuff like that, and seeing what direction that I'm gonna go through with that. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, this is fantastic, man. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thanks again for the time. We'll get you back on when
Yeah.
you on, and
Yeah, yeah. Anytime, man. Anytime.
you be well, man, and